Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shayi. I'm a senior associate with High Life Foundation based in Mashingo Social Business Unit. I'm going to talk about global trends in relation to our business situation in Zimbabwe, Africa, and in Econet to be specific. This presentation is intended to stimulate strategic thinking about the rapid changes and the array of geopolitical and economic, technological changes transforming our world. I'm going to specifically center this presentation looking at the potential trajectories that will take place in the next 15 to 20 years. In this presentation, I will talk about the 4 mega trends that are likely to take place in the next 15 to 20 years. Firstly, I'm going to start by identifying what we call individual empowerment. I'm also going to talk about diffusion of power. I'm also going to talk about the energy and natural resources. The presentation will obviously be incomplete without mentioning the demographic patterns. Those are the things that I'll be talking about in this presentation. The main objectives of the presentation is to create awareness of the future both in the industry and to the general public. I will mainly zero in on advising businesses, especially Econet, Liquid Telecoms and High Life Foundation, on the future that they should expect. The presentation is also aimed at stimulating strategic thinking so that Econet and High Life Foundation will think 15-20 years down the line and the potential trajectories that may come on board, and they have to be prepared for those trajectories. The third objective of the presentation is to just alert preparedness of the governance gap. As we are in the dynamic world of change, as there are going to be shifts and changes that are going to take place in technological advancement and what have you, the presentation is aimed at making the organizations prepared for the governance gap. The presentation is also aimed at providing advice associated with the global trends, what the organizations should do in line with the global trends and what to expect to that effect. That's what I'm going to be talking about. So to begin to detail the stuff in this presentation, I'll talk about individual empowerment. Individual empowerment will accelerate in the next 15 to 20 years owing to poverty reduction. What it basically means is that there's going to be growth of middle class. There's growth of middle class that is going to happen, and there's going to be growth in educational attainment. What it basically means is that the literacy rate is going to rise, and there's going to be widespread of new communication technologies that are going to influence individual empowerment. Look at manufacturing technologies and healthcare advances. That is what is going to happen under individual empowerment. Just to run through them, I'm also going to talk about the diffusion of power. And diffusion of power, we are saying there's not going to be hegemonic power. Power is going to shift through the networks, yes, and coalitions, especially into multipolar world. This is what is going to happen. Talk of the demographic patterns. In demographic patterns, we're looking at the arc of instability that will narrow. The economic growth might decline due to aging. We are talking of the developed countries and that are controlling birth and majority of the population is going to age, and that is going to affect those nations. We talk of urbanization, which is fast approaching. Countries are going to be highly urbanized. Those are the things that we were talking about. And the final one of the mega trends that I'm going to talk about in this presentation is food, water, and nexus. So the demand for resources will grow sustainably owing to the increase in global population. And obviously the increase of global population results in the fight for the resources. So those are the things that Econet and High Life Foundation should be aware of. To go into detail on individual empowerment, I've already alluded to the fact that in the next 15 to 20 years, there's going to be acceleration in individual empowerment. Poverty is obviously going to reduce because people are going to be educated. The middle class is going to grow. People who were not able to fund for a meal, they are going to be able to, because there's going to be individual empowerment. See, when we talk of individual empowerment, it is both the cause and effect of other major trends. You see, it is like the center, it is like the backbone of other trends. And the widespread exploitation of communication technologies and manufacturing technologies, individual initiative of solving problems. Here we can talk of social entrepreneurship. We've got individuals who are out there identifying problems in a community and ways to solve them. Those initiatives, the indigenous sector is going to grow, and the indigenous sector is going to become the formal sector. People out there identifying problems, and they're identifying solutions to their problems. And that is going to make the middle class rise to be at par with the former classes that were seen as the great classes. And disruptive technologies are going to take the center stage because of the individual empowerment. More ideas are going to come, and they're going to develop the world. Technologies are going to take play to grow and influence the world. There's not going to be monopoly of strengths. And under individual empowerment, we're going to talk about education and gender gap. You see, the education sector is likely going to grow bigger because people are learning. And in this education space, it's a space that I believe that Econet and High Life Foundation should make maximum use of it. Continuously develop digital and online learning platforms. For example, the Ruzimo platform. This is an opportunity for the business to grow in digital learning because education has become the big business. For example, in Zimbabwe, through Estonia, you are hitting a graduate. So developing more technologies that are in line with education and perfecting what we have on the market right now will see our business be on the rise in the next 15 to 30 to 20 years. Because people are investing in education, people are learning every day. So there is need to press our research and development departments to really look at the new technologies that can be used in education, new opportunities to operate in the education space, because it's going to be the big business, and it's going to be the business that is going to bring more revenue when you are going to center ourselves in the education space. More tablets needs to be released. Online libraries needs to be established so that business will grow in that space. Apart from the education gap under individual empowerment, there is the role of communication technologies. The good thing about Econet is that it is already operating in the space of communication technologies. Second generation wireless communications, things like smartphones, are likely to accelerate the empowerment of individuals, introducing new capabilities to developing world in particular. See, 65% of the continent's population has access to smartphones as we speak. These are used in mitigating deep-seated problems such as waterborne illness, which have slowed development. We have an example of such programs in Kenya, yes, where waterborne problems are being solved by smartphones. So it is of paramount importance that we invest in these technologies. There are opportunities for the ZTE, the warehouse that is doing the Econet branded phones, to develop more and more smartphones that are most recent and that are able to be used to solve such problems. What we're basically saying is that with where we are going, it's just your phone and you are done. The phone is going to be everything you need. You're going to do your banking on the phone, you're going to do your research on the phone, you're going to do your business on the phone. So the smartphones is going to be the biggest business that Econet and its subsidiaries needs to adopt and run with it, to make sure that they have invested in that space. Now, talking of division of power and the fact that there's going to be a dramatic impact that will take place by 2030 in terms of diffusion of power, Asia will have surpassed America and Europe. That's a fact. Combined in terms of global power, based on the GDP, the population size, military spending, and technological investment, China is fast growing the economy. What it specifically means is there is need to invest more in China, because China is outgrowing and outcompeting United States. It is very important that by 2030, Econet and its subsidiaries should have deep roots in China and make sure that we are growing at the pace that China is growing. You see, China, India, and Brazil, the regional players such as Colombia, Indonesia, Nigeria, South Africa, Turkey, will become especially important to the global economy. This specifically means that those are the areas, those are the nations, those are the economies that we really need to invest in. The economy that we need to sow our seed in. Meaning that if we sow our seed of investment in those nations, definitely when the season and the time comes, we will definitely reap in those economies. However, there is need to watch for economies that are on the fall. For example, Japan and Russia. Those are no-go areas in terms of investment. It is very wise for Econet and its subsidiaries for the next 15 to 20 years to stop investing in those nations. Now, looking at demographic patterns, a world in which a growing global population will have reached somehow close to 3 billion, 8.3 billion, up from 7.1 billion in 2012. This specifically means that population is increasing, population is rising. And in that effect, we're going to see that there's going to be aging, and the tectonic shift of both the West and increasingly most developing countries is still significant, but shrinking number of youthful societies. That alone is going to affect those nations, because they are not investing in the young and they've got birth controls. That is what Econet and its subsidiaries need to look for. The organization is growing, revenue is increasing, we are growing on the global market and what have you. We should also be aware of the issue of aging. It is of paramount importance that the organization needs to look at what we call succession plan. There is high need to invest in the youths and give them positions of influence, handing over the business to the youth so that we avoid the issue of aging and affecting the continuity of the business after the current generation of leaders of the business are gone. Because time is ticking out, the calendar is moving, years are going by. It's high time that we should start training a new CEO. We should now start training new general managers, investing in the youths, investing in the young generation. Craft a succession plan that is so detailed, in line with aging, to beat that anomaly, so that when time comes for the current age of leaders to retire, there is a proper laid down succession plan of people who are ready to take the baton stick and run with the organization, making sure that we continue to make an impact, we continue to change the world. There's going to be high demand for both skilled and unskilled labor, especially in those nations that are going to have high urbanization, in developing mode, and the volume of urban construction for housing, office space, and transport services for the next 40 years. In this in this area, it means there's high opportunity of investment in land. There's high opportunity of investing in other things like cement and everything, because as urbanization is going to take the center stage, it's only people who are in construction, people who own land, that are going to benefit when urbanization is about to take place. It's an area to give a thought. It's an area to give, to give an idea, just to think of it, because a big business can be made. Land acquisition, think of cement, think of construction, because where we are going, because urbanization is taking center stage, everyone is building. It's an area that we need to think about. Now we talk about growing food, water and energy nexus. Because of the increase in population and the high increase in population rising in terms of numbers, obviously there's competition of resources and food shortages are inevitable, especially in African countries. To be specific, in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, to be very, very, very much specific, it is important to invest in agriculture. I'm happy there's a product called Eco Farmer on the market. It is very important to then craft the product, package the product, market the product, so that big business can be obtained. Every other farmer is going to be in need of ensuring their crop, because with where we are going and the population increase and the high demand for resources, there's going to be shortage of food, shortage of water. And I'm happy that Econet has moved a step further, and water filtering is now a part of the business, but there's also need to go even a step further and start to develop more ways and more investments in as far as water and food is concerned. Developing agriculture, because agriculture is highly dependent on accessibility of adequate resources of water as well as energy-rich fertilizers. Those are areas that can be of concern. Just to conclude this presentation, I will just run through what we call the tectonic shifts. There's going to be the growth of global middle class that I have spoken about, wide access to lethal and disruptive technologies. In disruptive technologies, I talk of technologies like EcoCash. There is need to continuously develop disruptive technologies that will take the center stage in increasing revenue in Econet and its subsidiaries. And we talk of unprecedented and widespread aging, urbanization, food and water resources, the US energy in independence. Those are the tectonic shifts that I've talked about, and the game changers that are supposed to be watched for. The crisis-prone global economy, the governance gap, the potential for increased conflict. There's going to be increased conflict, and it is very important to be aware of those areas. It is not very wise to be investing in countries that is going to have civil wars, countries like Burundi and whatever, because they affect the business. So it is very important to look at that. The role of the United States, also important to look at that. In conclusion, it is of paramount importance for the Econet Board of Directors and the executives to plan with aptitude, prepare with aptitude, participate with servitude, and receive with gratitude. And that should be enough to separate us from the multitude. I thank you.